How you doing, Mark?
I am well. I'm me personally. I'm doing great,
Yep.
Rich. After watching that game, maybe the worst game in the history of the National Football League last night. Gosh, it was awful.
So what? Why? What was last night all about when you saw that?
Yeah, well,
night?
it's so funny because we try to make this game so complicated. Like it is. Like the thing that fascinates me about football, Rich, is the juxtaposition between simplicity and complexity. There's a complexity part to this game that's really fascinating from a strategy standpoint. But the bottom line is this game is simple. If you dominate the line of scrimmage, you win. And nobody could dominate the line of scrimmage, at least on the offensive side of the football. Quarterbacks under duress, it just looked ugly. And then decision making. Like it is so hard, I think, as a head coach sometimes to be in complete and total control of play calling at the same time and manage a football game. And there's a point there on a third down where Russell Wilson throws an interception because he's targeting Tyreek Hill in the end zone, and Stephon Gilmore undercuts it and intercepts the ball. And the whole time I'm like screaming at the television, going, "Just run the ball, kick a field goal." Like the odds of the Colts going 75 yards and scoring a touchdown, like they haven't moved it 40 yards. They can't move the football. They can't protect their quarterback. Like what are you trying to prove? This is about winning a football game, not style points. Like you don't get style points.
But I mean, if he was, and that's what's really confusing to me about the Broncos, Mark. Let's jump into this using that as a jumping off point. Is that if it was style points, then they would never have hired, Jerry Rossberg to come in and sit up there and be the angel on the shoulder of their new head coach, Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, he would have been concerned about how that looked. He says he's fine with that, but now Rossberg comes in and then what? I mean, you call a pass in the end zone on that part of the game where you just need to kick a field goal and get out of Dodge. But then again, you didn't expect Russell Wilson to throw the interception. Also, towards the end of that game, in the moment in overtime where the Colts call timeout and then the Broncos call timeout, only to come out and then throw a pass when you could run the football. It just seems to be a complete and total mess from the operation, the execution, and now the confidence level of a guy who was on the path to the Hall of Fame when he arrived in Denver. In 5 games in, we're wondering what happened to that guy.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, it is. It's perplexing. And the other thing is you get all the way down there and you've run the ball okay getting down to that position.
Right.
And now in a 4th down and 1 situation, this happened in Baltimore last week. 4th and short on the goal line, and you decide to go shotgun empty. Now they had a back in the backfield in Denver. Baltimore went shotgun empty. But my thought process is you've already created, like the one thing a defense wants to do, they always tell you, like when you go into these production meetings, Rich, right, you talk to the defense coordinator.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, number 1 priority, stop the run, make them one-dimensional. You go out there on a 4th down and 1 and you're out in shotgun and you spread your offense, you make yourself one-dimensional. The defense says, oh, gosh, thanks. We appreciate that because now we don't have to play the run. Now we can eliminate that from our thought process. And so when you come into a situation, especially on the goal line, when you're a short yardage situation, Rich, and your center or your quarterback gets under center, and you've got running backs in the backfield, and that's a potential. As a defender, you have to guess because you have to sit there and say, okay, what by formation and everything that we've seen so far on film, what are they going to do? And you have to say, hey, man, I got to sell out on this run. I've got to sell out. I've got to stop this. So if you do flag play action, the odds are, as a defender, especially as a linebacker, you have to play low to high, meaning you got to play the run first. You got to step up there, and then you got to fall back and scramble and try to defend the pass. When you get into shotgun, you're like the only thing they can do is quarterback draw. And I can play that from a deeper standpoint. So as a linebacker, instead of being 3 yards deep, all of a sudden I cheat a yard and a half or 2 yards. Now I'm covering more of the end zone, and I'm taking away the levels because you always try to run one receiver underneath right on the goal line and one the back end line, right? Well, if I can play that at a yard and a half deeper, I've made that window for the quarterback to throw it over me into the back of the end zone. I've made it so much tougher. So I will never, ever understand why you would line up that way as an offensive play caller and eliminate something for a defense. I want everything. I want every option on the table as an offensive player. Why do you do that to yourself? I don't understand.
Well, the difference between what you just laid out from the Ravens last week and what we saw last night, there's a similarity and then there's a difference. The similarity is the play call in Baltimore worked. Lamar had two wide open receivers on that fourth and goal, and he didn't hit either one because there was a rush in his face, or he didn't throw it when he should have. And, and then it was the coach who got blamed. Last night, the play worked, and KJ Hamler was wide open right in front of Russ, and he didn't hit him. And Hamler, with his 37 career receptions, slams his helmet down, and I don't think I've ever seen a Seahawk receiver do that in frustration with Russell Wilson. So my question for you is, what is going on with Russ and this team already 5 games in to have this frustration be so easily flown in our faces?
Well, because, think about what they've been able to accomplish. They scored 16 points against Seattle, 16 points against Houston, 11 points against San Francisco in a victory, 23 points against the Raiders, and last night a whopping 9. There's reason. They thought they were coming in here, and they thought that this was going to be, this offensive juggernaut that we have created, and Russ and and Hackett, and the way it's going to work, and it has been anything but. And and you're right about the play calling. The other difference is it was like 4th and 4 in Baltimore, right? And they went empty. It was 4th and 1 in Denver. But I will say this. From a play design standpoint, so number one, you get the man-to-man tell right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
And you run a pick route on Hamler's side, so Hamler gets wide open. But you're running something in the West Coast offense they call halfback burst, meaning the halfback who is on the right hand or the left-hand side of Russell goes through the B gap, and then he comes across the field. So Russell, all he has to do is hold the safety, right? You hold the safety, that's going to come wide open. That's why he's looking to the left initially, holding the safety. When he peeks back over to the right to throw it to Hamler, that halfback burst created interference, body presence. So he had to wait for the second window to open. So Hamler had to go like where he wanted to hit him, all of a sudden the running back getting over there. So from a play design standpoint, that play sucks from a play design standpoint because your own guy created interference. So you had to hold the ball for a second and throw it to the second window, which was the back of the end zone. And by the time you held the ball, people just start flowing that way because now you hold the ball and you have to look. And your eyes take everybody over there, including Cortland Sutton. That ball was not meant for Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, I know.
That ball was meant for KJ Hamler.
Yeah, it sure was.
And Cortland was like, let me go make a play. Like, the design of that play sucked. You created your own defenders. So, yeah, Rich, I wish I could sit here and tell you, hey, it's an easy fix. But, when things aren't going well, and you start guessing or second-guessing yourself and you start losing confidence, that was the most humbled Russell Wilson in his press conference I think I've ever seen.
He still said...
It wasn't defeated,
right,
but it was certainly, oh, gosh.